Hello and welcome to our tutorial for Auto-Optimize for performance for your WordPress website. Now, if you ended up here at this video, you probably are either having performance issues, speed issues, want to improve the overall performance of your website, or maybe you actually went to GTMetrix or Google PageSpeed Insights and you had some sort of flags for performance issues. Render blocking resources is a big one. Whatever the reason, if you ended up here, we're going to go through the different settings of the plugin Auto-Optimize for WordPress and how to set everything up, what all the settings do, the functionality, and how you should set it up to make your WordPress website run more smoothly. So let's go ahead and talk about the plugin. Once you download it, you're going to see that it shows up top here, Auto-Optimize, and you can get to all the settings. Just click there. It also has a delete cache here, which is good to know. So if you ever need to delete your cache, you could do that here. Now, here's the settings page. First, you're going to see it opens up to the first tab, which is where the meat of most of the settings are. You're going to see here is the JS, CSS, and HTML settings. Now, first it goes into the JavaScript. You're going to want to check this first box here to optimize JavaScript code. Now, that's going to minify all of your JS assets, which is going to make it run a lot faster right off the bat. And coupled with that, you definitely want to check this second box here. And this is going to aggregate all of your JS files. Now, what that's going to do is help out with all of those render blocking problems you were having with JavaScript. Instead of loading them all when your website's trying to load, what this does is aggregate them all and defer them to the footer. So it's actually going to make your page load faster, and it's noticeably faster, and you won't get flagged for all those errors on PageSpeed Insights and GTmetrix. So check off those first two. Now this third one here, I usually would recommend to leave unchecked, especially if you have a dynamic website that's delivering different URL content. Maybe you have a search function and you are generating a lot of different pages for people. If you have this checked, what that's going to do is actually keep your cache growing and growing and growing with all those different pages exponentially. So you definitely do not want to have this checked if you have a dynamic page. I would just leave it unchecked altogether. And this other one, force the JavaScript in the head, you probably normally don't want to do that especially if you're trying to get rid of a lot of that render blocking. So leave that unchecked as well. And going back to when we were aggregating all the JS files, it excludes some of them, including jQuery. Now, this causes errors sometimes, so I find it best to just leave that in there, exclude from the scripts that they're aggregating, and just leave that the way that it is. And this here, try catch up. Yeah, this, if you're anything breaks, it says that you can use this to try to fix the scripts. I've really never had any luck trying to do that, but if you want, you could try that if you have any errors. Now, moving on to the CSS options, you'll see it's very similar to the JS at the beginning. It's a little more in depth later on. First of all here, so it says optimize CSS code. Now, you want to check this and check the aggregate. That's similar to the other one that we just did for JavaScript. The first option here is going to minimize and minify all of your CSS code. And the second option here is going to aggregate all of your CSS files. So if you don't have this checked, actually what it's going to do is just keep all of your CSS and remain in place. But you'll notice if you go on the source code for your website, you will see that if you do have this checked to aggregate, it'll generate its own file actually for Auto-Optimize here. And if you see, all the CSS will then be in one file for you, which definitely helps with performance even more. So definitely have those checked. Now, this one here, aggregate inline CSS, you're going to want to check this option, and also inline and defer CSS. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So there's a thing on the website called above the fold, which is, it's actually an old newspaper term, believe it or not. So which comes from when the newspaper would be folded, all the stuff at the top. So it's an old advertising term, but on websites, it basically means what shows up on the first screen before anyone starts scrolling. So what you want to do is inline all that, but getting all of that code is kind of an extra step here. Now, they have their own, at Autoptimize, critical CSS generator that will generate all this code for you. Now, that is paid. If you want to go that route, you can. There's other critical path CSS generators you can use. There's one here for site velocity. Now you just enter your URL here, generate critical path CSS, and this will run, do its thing, and you can copy and paste the code right into here. And this will inline everything, and you'll see when you look at all the source, everything's in line there. And this next box, you don't want to check this. This here is going to make your HTML huge, which I don't really know why anyone would want to check that, but it's there. That should just be gone. And here, exclude CSS from Autoptimize. The only thing you might want to do here is if you go in your source and you see that you're loading any dash icons. No. So you might want to get rid of that and then just save. This section, fairly straightforward here with HTML. Just check here, optimize HTML code. All right, that's for that part. Now this here, if for CDN, if you have a URL to put in for a CDN, now you don't need to use this for Cloudflare. So if a lot of people probably are using Cloudflare, you don't need to put anything in here. But if your CDN gives you your URL, you can put that in there as well. And what do we have here? Miscellaneous options. Yeah, just keep all these checked. I actually like to uncheck this. This one here, this is for administrators. And so basically if you're logged in, then you don't want Autoptimize to optimize. So basically when you're building the site, which is good, I think, because when I'm building sites, I don't want a whole lot of caching going on. So it's best probably just to keep this unchecked. You could save an empty cache when you're done. Now, this next tab here for images, you can actually have Short Pixels serve all of your images from their CDN, which will help performance. With load time, you're going to have to see and check for yourself whether this is going to actually increase load time. But what it will do is help with using less resources on your server, because everything's going to be served up from their CDN. So you can play around with this and see if it's something that you want to do. Check the box here, lazy load images. What this is going to do is wait until people scroll down to get to the images that aren't right on the first page. When they scroll down later, then it'll load the images at a later time. Now, this is going to greatly increase your load time as well, because all of those images that are below the fold and not on the first part of the page, when the page loads, are going to get deferred till later on. So your page is going to be able to paint right away and not have to load all those images that are further down the page. So that's good. You check that. If there's any exclusions, you can put them in here. And that's images. Here is what we talked about before. I mentioned this with the CSS. If you wanted to sign up for the paid critical CSS, we'll remove the render blocking for you. Just paste your API key here, easy enough, and that'll get done. And some of this stuff is new here in Extra. With Google Fonts, you could either leave as is and see if you have any errors there, or if you would want to check a box to defer late, this would be the one for you. Now, what this would do is combine them all in the header, but defer them, all the font loads, till later. So this is also, again, if you're having that problem with render blocking, check here. That will help if you see any of those fonts showing up there. Emojis, check here. Remove emojis. That's wasted time there. With your loading, gonna increase your load time. And remove query strings. Boom, check. Now here too, what you can do is there's a lot of third-party sites. If you're using analytics, things like that, any pixels on your site, you can actually pre-connect to those, and it'll save you a lot of load time because it connects to these third-party sites right away. Until if you didn't do that, it would wait until later on in the page load in order to do that. So you can get a jump start on those, helps your page load faster, and there you go. Boom, boom. Optimize YouTube videos. Yeah, most of the time you'll just keep these blank. And this is just, I think, their sales pitch. Yeah, other different resources and different plugins that you might want to use in conjunction to auto-optimize. So that's pretty much it. Now, if you did this properly with the CSS, the huge thing is over here with the JavaScript and CSS. If you did this properly, this first page here, and you inlined everything properly, you should not be getting those errors anymore for render blocking when you are putting your site into GTmetrix or PageSpeed Insights or Pingdom. That is our tutorial on Auto-Optimize. Now, if you do have any other questions in the future, I'll put links to our website below. You can feel free to contact us. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.